Welcome, dear students, to this topic, input devices. Input devices, this is what we're looking at. Now, what would you learn in this topic? First of all, we shall know the meaning of input devices. Then we shall look at the examples of input devices. Afterwards, we shall look at the various functions and sections of the keyboard. And then we'll look at the functions and the parts of the computer mouse. Well, you know that computer is an electronic device that accepts data, processes this data, stores, and then gives out information through the output devices. Now, in order for the computer to be able to process this data, it means the data has to be imputed first of all into the computer. That is where input devices comes to play. Input devices, what are they? What are input devices? Well, input devices can simply be defined as those hardware devices that are used to enter data into the computer. Or one can say that input devices are those hardware devices that enables the computer user to enter data, command, and programs into the computer's CPU. Now, we have various examples of input devices. One of those examples is the keyboard. Yes, the keyboard is an example of input device. We shall be talking more about the keyboard later on. The keyboard and is one of those things we'll really look at. Even the mouse too. The mouse is another example of input device. We shall be talking more about the mouse later too. These are the two input devices we'll look deeply into in this topic, the mouse. The joystick is another example of input device. The joystick, I'm sure most of you must be very familiar with this very one. But the joystick is basically used for playing games and is similar to the mouse in operation. You know, the mouse is used to control movements of characters or cursor on the screen. We're going to be talking much more about the mouse later. So the joystick is used basically for playing games. The joystick enables the user to be able to control the characters that are displaying on the screen while they are playing the game. Another example of input device is the light pen. The light pen is an input device that uses light-sensitive detector to select objects on a display screen. The scanner is another example of input device. It imputes already prepared text, pictures, diagrams into the computer system and convert them into a file. It actually functions just like the photocopier. The next example of input device we are looking at is the digital camera. You must have seen a digital camera or a professional camera before. Now, this input device is used to impute both motion and static pictures. The microphone is an input device. It is used to impute voice data into the computer. The voice data is then changed to a digital signal and stored in the computer. Now let's talk about the optical mark reader, which is also known as the OMR. It is used to sense the presence of pencil or pen on marked paper. The OMR is common with multiple choice examinations like JAM, UME, WAEC, and NECO objective questions. So now let's talk about the keyboard. Remember I said we're going to be talking about the keyboard in detail. Now the keyboard is an input device, right? It's one of those examples of input devices. And the keyboard is used to input data such as figures, letters, commands, and diagrams. The keyboard has different sections. That's on the keyboard, there are different sections, and there are 5 of those sections. The first section of the keyboard is the alphanumeric keys. Then the next one is the numeric keys. Then we have the navigational keys, also called the cursor control keys, the function keys, and the special keys. Now let's look at this labeled keyboard for us to understand better. Now the first part there you see that is being singled out. That is called the alphanumeric keys. Alphanumeric, combination of both alphabets and numeric keys. Now the alphanumeric keys are located in the central part of the keyboard. They are used for typing letters, numbers, and notations. Now the next section of the keyboard is the numeric keys. The numeric keys are also called the calculator keys. They are activated by pressing the number lock. Now, these keys can produce only numbers. That's why they are called numeric keys. The next one we're going to be looking at is the navigational or cursor key. These keys are also called the text editing keys. They are keys that controls the position of the cursor on the screen, and they include inserts, deletes, home, end, page up, page down, and the 4 navigational arrow keys that you can see below there. That's left, right, up, and down keys. Now the next section of the keyboard is the function keys. Right? The function keys, these are keys that are commands, or they are also called command keys. They could be 10 or 12, but most times usually between F1 to F12, depending on the kind of keyboard. Right? They function alone or in combination with other keys. They perform special functions. Now the next keys we're going to be looking at is the special keys. Now these keys include other keys such as the print screen, pause, break window, power, the alternate key, the control key, and the toggle keys. When you hear toggle keys has to do with keys that can be turned on and off, right? Like the car plug and the rest. Now the next one we're going to be looking at is the mouse. The computer mouse is an example of input device. The mouse is a pointing and clicking device that allows commands to be sent into the computer by the computer user. The mouse can also be defined as a pointing, clicking, dragging, and dropping device. Now the mouse plays a very vital role in the operation of the computer. The mouse has various parts. We shall be looking at those parts and how they function. Now, like I said, there are different parts of a computer mouse. Now let's look at the different parts we have. The first part we're going to be looking at is the left or default button, then the right or shortcut button, and the last one we're going to be looking at is the middle or screw button. Now let's use this labeled mouse to explain further of how each of these parts works. Now the first part there is the right or shortcut button. Now the right or shortcut button can also be called the right click button. This function by right clicking the mouse to give a shortcut to menu options. Now the next one there is the middle or screw button. This functions by moving the roller or middle button to screw the window page. You can actually use that rollable part on the middle there to move upwards and downwards. Now the last part there of the mouse is the left or default button. The left or default button. Now this is the part of the mouse that is often used by a computer user. It can also be called the left click. Now this function by clicking the left button down, and it's used for dragging and dropping. So what have we been talking about so far? We've been looking at input devices. We started by defining what input devices are, after which we saw various examples of input devices and their various functions. Then we now looked deeply into the keyboard and the mouse. We saw the meaning of the keyboard and the mouse. We learned the meaning of keyboard and the mouse, and we also looked at the various functions or sections of the keyboard and their respective functions. We also saw the various parts of the mouse and how it works. So that's how we can take. Thank you so much for watching down to this point. See you on the next one.